Hello and welcome, family, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways, family, and that you're in your own vibes, you're in your own story, you're in your own narrative, because things are getting crazy out here. And many people don't know just how complex this global, what they want to call it, a global reset, but it's a total collapse of Babylon is going to be. But those are definitely stories for other days. Thank you so much to every single person that has subscribed to the channel. We appreciate, love you so much. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel, definitely consider doing it on Patreon, where we do have more content, especially more spiritual content on there. We do give a book a week and many other things. So definitely consider joining. And for everyone that sends us love donations through PayPal, we appreciate, love you so much. Yeah, we really do, family. It's funny because there's been a lot of question about the dumping of clothes, the dumping of Western clothes. It's something that started maybe 2 decades ago. It was a small trickle. And now, as I mentioned in a previous episode, a country like Ghana is receiving 15 million garments of old clothes weekly. And the majority of them can't even be used. So where are they ending up? On the ocean floor, on the beautiful beaches of Ghana. And many countries across the motherland have this issue, family. And here in Kenya, it's something that we've been really trying to, that people were really trying to fight. But it's just like, you see, what happens is, across the world, it's the corporations that sponsor politicians. So it's the corporations that run governments. And corporations are the new face of colonialism. Capitalism is the new slavery, is the new colonization. That's the new kind of programming that it's under, family. But it's all happening through these corporations. And there's so much that we have to do in order to liberate ourselves. And there are certain things that are within our, that we can implement today. Like, you can say you and your bloodline will never wear any people's old clothes, and you can even go burn the ones you have or whatever. These are some of the decisions that we have within our power, family. And then there are other things that are outside of our power because they're outside of our collective awareness. So enough of us don't know about it to be able to shift it in a spiritual and mental dimension. Because as I always say, we're spiritual beings having this human life, having this human experience, and everything is really created and defined here. That's why everything about Babylon is based on the foundation of a story. It's all about the narrative. And that's why I keep singing about how we need to change the narrative if we truly want to liberate Africa, because that's something that is in our hands. That is something that we can, communicate to others, that we can share, which won't cost us money. And so we have to diligently now share stories from our perspective. And not even that, but whenever you read anything on Western that is written by someone that doesn't look like you, family, and sometimes even the ones that look like you are also letting you down. But any story that you see in the media, read it from a melanated person's lens. How does this affect me? Because I mentioned how there was a global summit of fashion or something, and they were talking about the sustainability of the fast fashion industry. The meeting actually took place in Copenhagen, and and it's been a raging debate across the motherland. How can we revive our fashion industries? How can we revive our textile industries, which have totally collapsed in the last 2 decades because of the dead man clothes coming from Babylon, and how they've been dumped on us through policies? And that's what I was saying about corporations. So corporations in the divided states, corporations in Europe, they fund these politicians and then they influence policy. So they will go and tell Trump or Biden, yo, okay, like we need a place to dump our, our old clothes, the old fashion from that we weren't able to sell. So make sure that when you're signing an agreement with Ethiopia or Ghana or Kenya, that this is include that you have something there in the policy. And that's something I exposed a couple of years ago when I think the divided states was actually planning on dumping its plastic here in Kenya. There was a lot of outrage, and it never happened. But that's how these corporations can now come and dump their old clothes, dump their dead people's clothes in our countries. And then it has so many ripple effects because then our fashion designers go out of business. We stop producing our own materials. Like the sad thing is, most of these beautiful West African materials that you see, a lot of them are now being reproduced in China, family. Because a lot of the locals who were doing it were abandoning it because of secondhand clothes, dead man's clothes, which are being dumped in the country. And also because now these materials, there was a time when I was in West Africa where one of the fashion lady was telling me that they would come, the Chinese would come and take pictures of their different prints for the season. Then they take it to China and mass produce it, and they just couldn't compete. But this dumping of clothes on Mama Africa is a curse. It's one of the curses. Because the Babylon system, the Babylon oppression on the motherland is through curses, family. And it's a curse to wear someone else's clothes. Because you see, we shed. Just even if you look at the skin, we shed every day. We leave our energy on our clothes, family. And that's why back in the day when our grandparents were passing on, they would give, an uncle their jacket, a daughter their different possessions that they had held on to because they had their energetic signature. And so how can we as a motherland ever be free if we're still wearing old people's clothes, family? Not even old people's clothes, but the clothes of our former oppressors. And their dead clothes, so their dead people's clothes. When people die in Babylon, they'll just go and take all their clothes and give them to charity. Some don't even clean them, family, and then they're brought here in these bales and sold. And then there's a whole cartel of Africans who support it because now that's become their livelihood. That's how they make money. That's how they survive in this wicked, evil, sadistic, cruel, and vicious engineered poverty reality that we have on the motherland. And Rwanda, family, when Kagame, there's some things he's done right. When Kagame tried to stop this business of clothes being dumped in Rwanda, he got a lot of opposition from the divided states. A lot of opposition, family, because they didn't want him to set a precedent, and yet he stood his ground. 5 years later, family, Rwanda is now exporting clothes to the divided states because they were able to revive their textile industry. They now have a booming fashion industry, and they exported something like $50 million worth. I mean, for a small country, that's awesome. From being dumped on to now you're even exporting to the people who were dumping on you. And guess what? I didn't know if this was a joke because there's been a raging debate here in Kenya about, secondhand clothing. And even Rwandans now dump their clothes in Kenya. You see, what happens is it's not just the Babylon nations that will dump their clothes here. Even Asian nations will dump their clothes here. Other African nations. And that's why, family, as we're standing up to Babylon, it's not so much, we have to recognize how much damage ignorant politicians do. Can't even get the word out. How much damage they do, family, by accepting some of these deals without thinking about it because they got $10 million and they were put up in a 5-star hotel and maybe some Russian or whatever prostitutes were said to them, And so increasingly, family, it is so important for us to understand the dynamics of this neo-colonialism in the shape of capitalism and how it affects us. Here in Kenya, it used to be so hard to be able to find something that was locally made by one of our fashion designers that you could even afford. Because our fashion designers couldn't survive. So to find something made in Kenya, I think it started with t-shirts, where people started printing stuff in t-shirts. That's where we started, family. But you see, even though the messaging has been getting out there, there's still millions of people who survive on selling these dead people's clothes. So when you try and tell them, listen, we got to take this away for now so that we can start our industry of making our own materials, making our own clothes, because we produce cotton and all that stuff, it becomes very hard for them because what are they going to do in this transition? And that's why we have to get the right narrative to our people and give them a holistic narrative. And so in order to change Africa, first of all, we need to get the stories to our people of the damage that some of these neo-colonial policies over our people are having and why we're still in a colonial slave-like situation because of these politicians and the deals they make. We have to sign into most of our parliaments a clause in the Constitution that demands a full public disclosure of every agreement that our governments get into for public discourse so that people can see what deals we're getting into. Governments must learn how to be wise and to leak information, like when they want to stop selling secondhand clothes and the Mzungu comes and tries to twist their arms, leak the information to the public, to the blogs, to the whoever. We have to stop being wise, and we need visionary leaders, family, who see the bigger picture, because you see, we are going to have to buckle down to change in the short term so that we can rectify some of the damage that's been done in the long term. And you know what, family? Our spiritual ancestors aren't even going to wait for that. So but that's what we can be doing right now, as we wait for this new earth to manifest itself, as we wait for the new to manifest itself. We can start to push for our governments to reverse some of these policies that do extreme damage to us and use the media wisely to expose when their arm is getting twisted by Babylon, when their lives are being threatened because they want to change the status quo. But the change starts with us, family. There's a curse over our people. The curse of engineered poverty. The curse of being the dumping ground for everything that Babylon doesn't need. They come to Africa to get the raw materials, to build their computers, to build their fridges, to build all that stuff. And then they dump their old stuff back here, or they resell it to us at exorbitant prices. A revolution is coming, family, but we, on an individual level, have to understand the extent of the neo-colonialism and slavery that we're in, so that we can even find a way out of this maze, out of this rabbit hole. But it starts with us taking those individual actions. Each one teach one. Stop wearing Babylon clothes. Stop supporting Babylon. There's some gadgets, okay, that our people haven't started producing. But where you can, buy local, support local. Like right now, there's a huge made in Kenya Twitter war going on, where people are saying buy made in Kenya, but it hasn't been there because we have all these second-hand clothes. And it's beyond just the clothes. To the point where even saw Africa, we're even importing things like grain and wheat, which are so bad for our bodies. Gluten is like poison for the melaninated people. But it's all because we're so in the Babylon narrative that it's almost like they've cloned us to be like them or to think like them, where we want to eat them like them, we want to dress like them, we want to think like them, we want to go to their schools. It's madness. But stop wearing I keep saying old people's clothes. Stop wearing dead man's clothes, family. Have some dignity. There was a time, I was being told about how there was a time in Ghana where the second-hand clothes had to be sold like near the cemetery, somewhere hidden. And you'd even be shopping, trying not to be seen. And yet now they've become the second biggest receivers of the world's second-hand clothes, the second biggest dumping site. And Ghana also receives old fridges, old computers, all this old stuff, family. Just so a politician can build a palace or live large for 10 years. So he can receive $10 million, because even the amount they receive for what they put their people through is shameful. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Until next time, tuko pamoja.